No one in that prison had ever seen an inmate as calm as he was on his final morning. Every step toward that cell was a step toward the end of everything. Or so they thought. He had 1 hour left alive, and only one request in the world. It was not food. It was not forgiveness. It was not even a final phone call. What he asked for sent a shock through every officer in that building. He asked for his dog. The Belgian Malinois he had raised from a stray pup. His partner. His only family. The dog had been reassigned for 3 years. Retired. Living in another life. But when that dog arrived at the prison gate, nothing would ever be the same again. Because that dog had been carrying a secret for 3 years. A truth no human had been able to speak. Stay with us. What this dog does inside that room will leave you completely speechless. Like and subscribe, our stories travel farther than you know. 3 years before that cell, Lucas Rivera was the most trusted wilderness search and rescue handler in the state of Oregon. His Belgian Malinois Axel had located 47 missing persons in 6 years of active service. Together, they were considered unstoppable. Hikers lost in winter storms. Children separated from their families. Axel found them all every time, in every condition. But Lucas had found Axel long before any of that. A starving stray near a trailhead. Shaking in the autumn rain, too frightened to move. Lucas sat in the rain for 2 hours that day, waiting. He saw something in those eyes most people would have walked past. He saw a survivor. Every morning at 5, Lucas trained him, quietly, patiently, without a raised voice or a moment of frustration. In 14 months, Axel had outperformed every other candidate in Oregon's wilderness K-9 program. What no one had believed became undeniable. They ran together every morning, ate together, slept in the same room after hard rescues when neither of them wanted to be apart. Once, on a flooded trail in the Cascades, Axel grabbed Lucas's jacket and pulled him from a river current before the water could take him under. "You saved my life, boy," Lucas whispered that night. "I owe you everything." It was a Tuesday night in late October. A solo hiker named Aaron Mills had gone missing near Ridgeline Trail. Lucas and Axel were called in, standard search protocol. They had done this dozens of times. But from the first moment inside those trees, something felt wrong. Axel found the scent trail immediately. He pulled hard, moving faster than Lucas had ever seen him move, like something was pushing him forward urgently. The trail took them into a restricted zone, an area Lucas had flagged months earlier for signs of illegal activity he hadn't been able to prove. Then Axel froze. Every muscle locked. His nose went up rather than down. He wasn't following a trail anymore. He had found a threat. Lucas turned. The flashlight swept the undergrowth, a crack of branches, then complete silence. The kind of silence that happens when something is very deliberately staying still. He never saw the second figure until it was far too late. Something struck him from behind with enormous force. He hit the ground face. First, rain immediately soaking into his jacket, his vision exploding white. Axel launched himself at the attacker. Lucas heard the impact, heard a shout of pain in the darkness. Axel was fighting for him. A gunshot cracked through the rain. Lucas felt nothing, heard Axel bark once, desperate and final. And then the world went completely silent. He came back to consciousness surrounded by shouting officers. There was a body in the undergrowth 10 feet away, and Lucas did not know how it had gotten there. His hands were covered in blood he could not account for. His own service weapon had been fired. He could not explain either fact. And Axel, the animal who had trusted Lucas unconditionally for 6 years, was barking at him, frantically, like he was screaming a warning no one could translate. Within 12 hours, Oregon's most decorated rescue handler was the state's prime murder suspect. The story dominated every channel, every feed, every conversation. The public trial began before the legal one ever started. Every neighbor, every colleague, every stranger had already decided what he was. "I didn't do this," Lucas told them, 40 times, 100 times. Someone else was in those trees. Axel saw it. Axel knows. The ballistics matched his weapon. His fingerprints were everywhere. No other DNA was recovered. The case looked airtight from every angle. Axel was reassigned, retired from active service. The footage of him barking at Lucas was played on every news channel, as though it were a confession. If his own dog does not trust him, the prosecutor told the jury, why should any of us? Those 12 faces listened. Those 12 faces believed it. Guilty. Death penalty. The gavel fell and Lucas Rivera's world ended. He was 34 years old. 3 years later, on the morning set for his execution, the same dog was being placed carefully into a transport crate. Axel was older now. Gray had come in around his muzzle. His joints moved more slowly, but his nose had not forgotten a single thing. His handler for the past 2 years, Officer Maya Chen, clipped his leash and knelt beside him. "You ready, boy?" she whispered. Something in Axel's body changed as the vehicle drew closer to the prison. His ears rose. His breathing deepened. His nose remembered what his eyes had not yet seen. The gates opened. Axel stood up in his crate without being told. Alert, ready. Word had moved through every corridor. Every officer knew. Something unlike any execution day they had seen before was about to happen. Lucas was escorted in chains, but he walked with a steadiness that made the guards uncomfortable. He was not walking toward death. He felt it in his bones. The room was designed for endings. Colorless and cold, every surface chosen for function, not comfort. What was about to happen inside it was neither. Axel stepped through the door, and for one suspended moment, the entire room held its breath. Lucas exhaled. Axel's ears shot forward. Recognition moved through both of them like electricity. But what came next was not what anyone expected. Axel growled. Deep rolling vibrating off every concrete surface. And the sound was not aimed at Lucas Rivera. Every guard's hand moved to their belt. Officer Chen tightened the leash. Axel, easy. The dog did not ease. He worked. He did not attack. He did not rush. He circled the room slowly, precisely, the way he moved when he was working a scene, reading layers no human instrument could detect. His nose moved in short, rapid sweeps, the air, scenting pattern Lucas had watched 10,000 times. Axel was not reacting to the room. He was reading it. He is not reacting to the inmate, the warden said quietly to no one in particular. He uncrossed his arms. He is working. Officer Chen crouched beside him, watching his ears. His tail, the angle of his body. Her breath caught. He is following a specific scent trail, she said. He has found something. Then Axel turned away from Lucas entirely. He moved toward the row of guards standing along the far wall of the room. Deputy Warden Craig Barrett stood perfectly still, arms at his sides, face neutral. Axel stopped directly in front of Barrett. He stared straight up at him. The growl did not fluctuate. It deepened. It was not a warning anymore. It was an accusation. Barrett's face was a mask. His voice was even. "Control that animal," he said. But his knuckles were white. "Sir," Officer Chen said carefully, "Axel is not just reacting. He is alerting. This is a trained confirmation response. It means," she said, answering the unspoken question in every face, his scent memory is matching this person to a crime scene, to a specific location, to a specific night. Barrett laughed. The sound came out half a second too quickly. "Absolutely absurd," he said. "You are going to stop an execution because a dog barked." Axel barked twice. Short, hard, decisive. The exact sequence Lucas knew better than his own name. Lucas had not moved since Axel entered. Now he took one step forward. "Axel only double, barks for a confirmed match," he said quietly. "One bark means possible. 2 means certain." "He is correct," Officer Chen confirmed. "That is his trained protocol." Barrett's voice went hard. "You are going to overturn a lawful execution because of an old dog's performance. Look at the actual evidence." Something in his tone had changed. The warden raised his hand. The room went still. "We are pausing," he said. His voice was absolutely quiet. "Every procedure, every schedule. Nothing moves until I say so." Axel walked back to Lucas calmly and sat down beside him. Not in confusion, not in fear. In the oldest declaration a dog can make, "I am with you." Lucas's hand fell to Axel's head. The dog leaned into it. "What do you remember, boy?" Lucas whispered. "What have you been holding all this time? The rain, the cold, that flashlight beam swinging through the trees, Axel pulling hard on the scent, the restricted zone, the silence that was wrong, and the detail that had always been just out of reach, the jacket, forest, service green. with a distinctive patch on the left arm that he had seen somewhere before, near Aaron Mills's body. Something Lucas had never been able to testify about because the memory had been locked. A wire cage, hidden under brush, a professional poaching trap, a voice on a radio, 20 feet from where the body lay, calm, directing, get the weapon, set it up correctly, make it clean. Lucas came back to the present with a breath sharp enough to make every guard look, and when his eyes opened, something in them was completely different. His eyes found Barrett's face across the room. He held them there. He did not look away. "You were there," Lucas said. His voice was not shaking. It was carved from something harder than anger. "You were in those trees. I heard your voice on that radio." Barrett opened his mouth. Something moved behind his eyes, and every person in that room who was paying attention saw it. Just for a moment. But they saw it. The truth that had been buried for 3 years was no longer buried. It was in the room with them, breathing. The warden spoke into his radio. His voice was very steady. "Get the forensic coordinator on site. Contact the Attorney General's office. And halt the schedule, completely." Barrett's composure continued to crack at the edges. "You are shutting down a lawful execution because of a dog and a criminal's flashback." Officer Chen had been quiet for 2 minutes. She spoke now. "Craig Barrett has been assigned to this facility for 8 months. The warden turned to her slowly. "How do you know that?" She looked at Axel, then back. "Because when he started alerting, I pulled the file. I needed to understand the connection." Craig Barrett, she continued, her voice careful and precise, was the first responder on scene the night Aaron Mills was found. He arrived before the other deputies, before anyone else, first on scene, before backup, before documentation. First on scene means first access to the evidence. Every officer in that room understood what first access meant. Everyone who had ever worked an investigation understood. He was there before anyone else, Lucas said. He could have moved the weapon. He could have placed my prints on it. He controlled what the responding officers saw. Barrett's composure shattered. His fist hit the wall. "That is enough!" The room froze. Even the sound of the ventilation seemed to stop. Axel was on his feet before the echo of the slam had died. He placed himself between Lucas and Barrett, every muscle engaged, every old instinct alive and ready. Barrett's right hand began to move toward his side. It was an automatic gesture, the gesture of a man who is out of options and has not yet accepted it. 3 guards were on him before the motion completed. His arms were secure. He was held against the wall, chest heaving, no longer in control of anything. And in the struggle, something fell from Barrett's jacket pocket, a small metal object. It hit the concrete floor with a sound that cut through everything. Everyone looked down at it. A distinctive metal token. A Ridgeline Trail Wilderness Association coin. The kind serious hikers carried for years. Lucas went pale. "That is Aaron Mills's," he said. "He carried that on every hike. I saw it at the trailhead the night he went missing. I remember it exactly." Officer Chen had her phone out and had photographed the object before anyone spoke again. Documentation first. Questions second. "Craig Barrett," the warden said, his voice the opposite of raised. "You are being formally detained pending investigation. Do not speak. Do not move. Do not request anything except legal counsel." Barrett stopped fighting. His shoulders dropped. He stared at the concrete floor. Lucas sat down against the wall. His legs had simply stopped working. 3 years of held breath leaving his body at once. Axel pressed against him. The weight of a warm, living body that had been waiting 3 years to be in exactly this position. Lucas buried his face in Axel's fur. 3 years of silence cracking open at last, quietly, without an audience, between one man and his dog. "We need an emergency stay of execution," the warden said into the phone. Effective this moment. "Yes, I understand the procedure." Within 40 minutes, 2 attorneys from the State Attorney General's office arrived, still pulling on their jackets. The case that had seemed settled was now anything but. Barrett was moved to a separate room and asked for legal counsel. The interrogation was paused while it was arranged. His silence now told its own story. The forensic team confirmed it within the hour. The keychain carried trace DNA. The DNA matched Aaron Mills, the man Lucas had been convicted of killing. Investigators reopened the original case files. In the background of the original crime scene photographs, barely visible, never flagged, the corner of a wire cage, consistent with professional wildlife trapping equipment. Barrett's service record in Cascades County showed 6 separate investigations of suspected wildlife poaching in the Ridgeline area. 6 investigations, no arrests. On trails he patrolled daily. An officer who consistently found nothing in an area where illegal activity left constant physical traces. The shape of the truth was becoming visible. Mr. Rivera, the attorney said, choosing each word with precision, we are seeing sufficient grounds here to apply for immediate overturn of your conviction. We are moving tonight. Lucas did not smile. He nodded very slowly. Axel's tail began to move. Slowly at first, then with a steady, even rhythm, like a clock restarting after a very long pause. Outside the narrow window, the light had changed. The bleak gray of execution morning had become afternoon gold. Time had moved differently today than anyone had planned. Craig Barrett was formally arrested at 20:47 in the afternoon. 60 days later, the conviction was officially overturned. Every document signed, every record corrected, every legal chain removed. Lucas walked out through the front entrance, not the transport exit, not the back gate, the front door, the one reserved for people who are simply leaving. Axel walked beside him. Officer Chen had signed the transfer paperwork herself. He belongs with you, she had said. She was not wrong. Lucas stopped and breathed in. Pine, cold air, the smell of the Pacific Northwest mountains he had spent his life in. His whole body remembered. Every step was deliberate. The body remembers imprisonment even when the law has ended it. It takes time to believe in open space again. The first night, Lucas slept on the floor with Axel. Not because there was no bed, because the floor felt like the right place to begin. Axel's head rested on Lucas's chest. They breathed together. 3 years of frozen grief beginning very slowly to thaw. In the morning, Lucas opened the cabin door. The forest was right there, patient, unchanged. It had been waiting without any judgment at all. They walked without any agenda for the first time in years, not tracking, not searching, not proving anything to anyone. Just 2 living things moving through a forest. Axel's nose still worked the air in those sweeping patterns. Habit worn so deep it had become part of breathing. Some things do not retire, they simply continue. Lucas watched him and felt something shift inside his chest. Over the following weeks, they ran every morning. 1 mile, then 3, then 5. The body rebuilding what confinement had taken. The state attorney general issued a formal public apology. Every news outlet that had called Lucas Rivera a killer had to say his name entirely differently now. Lucas declined most interview requests. He had one conversation to finish before he could speak to the world. One place he needed to go first. He went to Aaron Mills's memorial at the Ridgeline Trailhead. He brought wildflowers and sat in silence for a long time. The case had begun here. Something needed to end here. Axel sat beside him without moving. I am sorry it took this long, Lucas said softly. You deserved justice years ago. The truth arrived late, but it arrived. He stood and walked away slowly. Axel stayed exactly at his side, shoulder to his leg, with every step. The way he always had when the mission was heavy. Craig Barrett was convicted of first-degree murder, evidence tampering, and wildlife trafficking. 3 consecutive life sentences. The gavel that had once destroyed an innocent man now protected him. Lucas was asked to speak at sentencing. He stood at the microphone for a long moment without saying anything. The courtroom waited. He looked at Barrett briefly. Then he looked away. I do not want to spend another moment on you, he said quietly. He nodded toward Axel. Axel's ears lifted. His tail tapped the wooden bench once. The courtroom, attorneys, journalists. A judge with 30 years on that bench almost smiled. Something moved through the room that was not in the legal procedure. Something that 30 years of law had not made the judge immune to. Lucas sat down next to Axel, placed his hand on the dog's back, and breathed. It was enough. It was more than he had had for 3 years. 6 months after his release, Lucas Rivera accepted a position as a wilderness protection advocate with the Oregon State Park System. He went back to the forest, where he had always belonged. He no longer wore a uniform, but the forest received him the same way it always had, like he was part of it. Axel ran ahead of him on every trail, still reading the air, still working the world in layers invisible to humans. Some missions do not end. They become something permanent. A family came down the trail. A small girl reached her hand toward Axel without fear. He stopped, dropped his nose to her palm, and waited. He had all the time in the world. She laughed. Axel's tail swept in a slow and steady arc. Lucas talked with them for a few minutes. About the trail ahead. About what lived in these mountains. About why it mattered to protect what the mountains held. They moved on down the trail and disappeared around the bend. Lucas watched until they were gone. Then it was just him and Axel again, the way it had always been. Just him and Axel, in a forest that had not changed while his world had broken and been remade. The light came through the canopy in long gold shafts. The shadows were quiet. The air smelled like pine and cold stone and things that do not know how to lie. Lucas sat on a boulder near the trail's edge. Axel settled beside him, pressing his warm weight against Lucas's hip. They were both looking at the mountains. Two small figures in something enormous and unchanged. The mountains had seen everything. They did not judge. They simply remained, as loyal as the dog beside him.